It's time to start digging into Vue. We have three objectives for this lesson. The first is to load Vue onto the document. Secondly, we want to start using Vue by creating an instance. We'll explore what that means in a moment. Lastly, we want to verify Vue is working. We won't be able to move forward if Vue is not correctly functioning. In the resource section of this lecture, you'll find a zip file. Download and unpack the files anywhere. It doesn't matter where you unzip it. I recommend working in a directory where most of your development projects will live. Once you have that done, open the files in the editor of your choice. There's not much going on. The HTML file has a basic setup, nothing that will be unfamiliar to you. Along with the HTML file, I have included a style sheet. The stylings I'm adding have nothing to do with Vue. I added them in to provide some spacing for the elements we'll use in the next few lectures. It isn't necessary to have this, but I think it'll make things visually clear. If you don't want to bother with CSS, you're free to delete this file. You will also need to remove its inclusion from the HTML file. Lastly, we're loading in a script, which is empty. We'll be writing some code soon enough. One thing I want you to notice is the div tag with the ID of app. This element is where we'll be writing most of our application code. You'll soon understand why we need an element to house our application in a moment. With the necessary files ready, let's load Vue. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the installation documentation page for Vue. There are several ways to download Vue. Most developers prefer to use the tooling to scaffold a new project. It's great that there's an official toolset for Vue, but we're not going to start using it. We will in a future section. We want to focus solely on Vue. For this reason, we're going to use the simplest method for loading Vue. We'll use a CDN. I find the CDN to be much simpler for getting started because it allows us to focus on Vue without all the bloat. It's truly the best way to experience Vue without committing to an entire toolset. If you're not familiar with the concept of a CDN, let me quickly break down what a CDN is. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. They're a vast network of servers that host static files like CSS, JavaScript, or images. One of the main issues of delivering files to the user is how long it takes for the file to reach them. A CDN will store copies of your files on different servers across the globe. Before a file is delivered to the user, the network will figure out what server is closest to the user. For example, if we're in New York, the CDN will deliver the file from a server located in New York. If we live in India, it'll deliver the file from a server located in India. CDNs are intelligent enough to deliver the file from a server closest to the user. This decreases the time it takes for a page to load. The Vue team has opted to upload a copy of Vue onto a CDN so that we can quickly get started without installing additional tools. A CDN works out of the box. Using the recommended CDN is a great way to get started with Vue. We'll copy the entire script tag it suggests. After copying it, paste it into the HTML file. Make sure it's loaded in before the app.js file. By adding one script, we've included Vue. This simplicity is one of the things I love about Vue. A lot of other frameworks require you to use a CLI to install many tools to get started. It's quite a hassle. However, with Vue, everything works with a single script. Vue does come with a CLI. We'll be taking a look at that later in the course. We're going to approach things in the most straightforward manner possible. The next step is to control the element with Vue. Even though we've included Vue, it does not automatically do anything to the page. We're the ones responsible for telling it what to control. Doing this is very simple. Inside the JavaScript file, we're going to call a function called view.createApp. The Vue object is defined by the script we added in. It has a function called createApp where it'll tell Vue to initialize a new application. The application it returns has the capability of keeping track of data and manipulating the document. This function has one argument, which is an object of configuration settings. We'll pass in an empty object. We'll add some settings later. The next thing we need to do is mount the application. The word mount is something you'll come across frequently in the documentation. It's used to describe the process of Vue inserting itself into the document. At the moment, we created an application, but we didn't tell Vue where to render the data. We need to instruct Vue where to mount the application. The createApp function will return an object with a method called mounts. We can chain the mount function after creating the app. This method has one argument. It's the element the application should mount itself to. The format for the value must be a CSS selector. In the HTML document, we have an element with the ID of app. We'll pass in #app. Be sure to pass this in as a string. That's important to note down. We've created our first app. It won't do anything, but let's check if it works. To view the file in your browser, you can double-click on it in your File Explorer or drag the file onto the browser. Typically, we would deliver our application from a server. Servers are computers that are capable of handling requests for an application. We're working locally, meaning we're working on our personal computers. The Vue team has developed a solution for creating a server on our machines. That's something we'll look at in a future lecture. For now, opening files directly in the browser will work. We won't be using features that require the necessity of a server. As you can see, nothing is happening. Let's open the console to check for some errors. I'll be using Chrome for this course. I recommend you use Chrome as well because it comes with the latest features of JavaScript and the best tools for development. You can open the console by pressing F12 on your keyboard. If you're on a Mac, you can press Command-Option-I. The console will not output any errors. Let's check the Elements panel for a moment. Nothing changes here either. Alright, so nothing is happening so far. How do we verify if Vue is controlling the element with the ID of app? There are a couple of ways, but I think the easiest way is to use the official dev extension. We'll take a look at this tool in the next lecture.